Boy, that was really painful. Let's talk about episode 2, Ren Seeks Help. Now, the beginning of this episode has Stimpy crying about something that Ren did that we did not get to see. The dramatic crying stuff was one of my least favorite things about the original show, and it kind of detracted from the wacky, surreal humor. However, in this episode, Stimpy's crying and screaming is even more annoying and abrasive, and it feels like the first 5 minutes of the episode are pretty much nothing but screaming and crying. Now, who the fuck wants to watch that? Ren decides that he has gone too far this time, hurting Stimpy's feelings or whatever it is that he did, and he decides he's going to go get professional help from a therapist who turns out to be Mr. Horse, my favorite character. I love Mr. Horse. Ren and Stimpy was one of my main things as a kid. The creativity was so unlike anything I'd ever seen. I grew up in the 80s when everything was produced by toy companies. You know, you had your Transformers, you had your He-Man, your Thundercats, and it was all bullshit. And then Ren and Stimpy was the first cartoon I remember watching that was here to be weird and interesting. It was the eye-opening moment for me when it came to animation. Now, I can go back and watch old episodes and I can still enjoy them. Objectively, this is not the worst episode. It is my least favorite because it's the one that I saw that killed Ren and Stimpy for me for several years. Luckily, about this time, shows like Aqua Teen Hunger Force were totally kicking ass on Adult Swim. The setup of Ren going in to see a psychiatrist, who is Mr. Horse, is a fantastic framing for an episode. I could see classic Ren and Stimpy having this sort of structure and it being hilarious. The problem is, with this episode, there are no jokes. It's very serious. It's all played straight. It's uncomfortable. It's an entire episode of animated animal torture. If this stuff was live action and done to actual animals, people would be legally prosecuted for it. This episode is a serious offense to animation and comedy, and they took Mr. Horse, a character who could make you laugh with literally only 6 words.
Hey, boss. These guys just stole me and... Well, sir, I don't like it.
Comedy gold, man. They made him completely unfunny, and Ren just becomes a complete and utter sadist in this cartoon. As with the first episode, this is double the runtime. This one clocks in at just under 24 minutes. Nothing funny happens. Instead of constant gross out visuals and sounds and the look how funny it is, they're having sex joke. In this episode, we're just treated to animal torture for most of the runtime. It's just terrible, man. This episode almost feels like a meta statement that Ren is torturing this helpless animal, and we as the audience, we are being tortured by watching this bull. There's a frog that Ren tortures, and eventually he's tortured the frog so much that the frog begs him to kill him. This is real. This was put on television for people to watch. After the frog begging for death, Ren is finally confronted by his parents about what he has done to this poor frog, and his father tells him that he should kill the frog and put him out of his misery because he is suffering. You may notice that I'm talking a lot more about what happens in this episode because in this episode there is a story. Onward and Upward has no story. They have sex, they eat snot, that's it. Ren's mother is wearing a dress where her ass and her are very pronounced. This actually brings me to a point about the original show that I was not crazy about either, which was the idea that whenever somebody's is on screen, their has to be really detailed and pronounced a lot of the time. And I just really don't care for that. I put up with this on the original show because I enjoyed the Ren and Stimpy show's bizarre humor and surreal storytelling. And of course, the art was fantastic. However, since this show doesn't have any positives, it just is just really nasty. Ren's parents send him out into the backyard to go finish off the frog. And while this is happening, they aggressively make out. And his dad grabs his mom's butt and her skirt lifts up, revealing one of her bare ass cheeks. Is there something funny about this? Because I'm just not seeing it. Since his parents are distracted, he just decides that it's better torture for the frog to not kill him. So he just throws him in a trash can. Next, Ren tells Mr. Horse what he did or said to upset Stimpy so much. Mr. Horse freaks out and tells Ren how sick and crazy he is. And Ren asks him what kind of psychiatrist he is to say something like that. When Mr. Horse starts screaming at Ren, he even sounds like Ren. So John Kay, who is doing the voice of both characters, you can audibly hear him not even able to make a difference in the two voices at this point. So that it's literally like the same character screaming at himself.
You're fucking crazy! That's what's wrong with you! Crazy? That's right. I don't understand.
John Kay really should have gotten a better voice actor. He reveals he is not actually a psychiatrist. And then they have a big fight, which Ren ends up winning. Ren kills Mr. Horse in what is played totally straight, like a horror movie scene. He's beating him with his own pistol that he had pulled out for protection earlier. It just felt like they were just giving me the finger. Oh, you like Ren and Stimpy? You think it's funny and interesting and creative? We're not doing none of that. It's just toilet humor and that's all we're going to talk about now. John Kay did not do a good job with this. This is not Ren and Stimpy. It may be called Ren and Stimpy, but it is not Ren and Stimpy. This is Pod People Ren and Stimpy. Do you remember the Looney Tunes episode? I think it was made in the 90s, and it was called Invasion of the Bunny Snatchers. Obviously an Invasion of the Body Snatchers satire. Elmer Fudd and all the other characters, except for Bugs, were replaced basically by pod people, and they all acted weird and weren't their normal selves, and it was very strange, and everything felt creepy and off. And that's what this show is. It feels like fan fiction, but even more so, it feels like space aliens took over the Ren and Stimpy show, don't know what actual comedy or creativity is. They just made the characters totally different from what they are. Ren has killed Mr. Horse. Animal Control shows up, captures Ren. They haul him off. The camera pans back. Mr. Horse is laying there dead and mutilated on the ground. And then the frog that we've heard so much about from Ren's backstory comes into the room, finds the revolver on the ground, and this is the big payoff to the joke that was set up earlier, is that the frog puts the gun in his mouth and shoots, except it doesn't have a bullet. It has one of those flags that just says bang on it. It's weird because it goes out the back of his head. So it's like, did that kill him? But then his eyes blink and you're like, oh, he's still alive. But then like a tear comes down his eye. Does that mean he's crying because he did not die and he's upset? Or does that mean that he's crying because he finally got to shoot himself? I really don't understand. And the people that wrote this, I don't think they understood either. I don't really think it really matters. All that really matters is this story is sick and awful and terrible and disgusting, and it's just garbage. I want to know, what about this is a party. It's called Adult Party Cartoon. Does animal mutilation and people doing what this frog just did to himself, is that a party? Because I seriously think the people involved with this production do not have any sense being anywhere near the production of any more shows ever. That was Ren Seeks Help. I really, really hate this show.